I'm Kit from Selkirk. I've always loved to cook and travel. Awesome ingredients for our global kitchen. Welcome to our global kitchen. I've always wanted to learn more about Asian cuisine and culture. So today, we're going to make some traditional Singapore dishes. They say eating is Singapore's unofficial national pastime. And my friend and Selkirk chef, Mary Jane Feek, will show us two of their most popular meals. A tarty, spicy ayam tempura, and that tangy Singapore signature chili prawn. Hi, Mary Jane.
Hi, Kit.
So what are we starting with today?
We're going to be making ayam tempura, which is a traditional chicken stew that's served in Singapore. We're just going to take the chicken and we're going to cube it into about 1 inch or 2 inch pieces.
So Mary Jane, how did you end up in Singapore?
You know what? I went when I was traveling to South Africa, and I actually went and did some cooking classes.
Oh, cool.
I met with a lady named Violet Oon, and she has a cooking school in Singapore. She showed me how to make this traditional dish, as well as we got to go and tour some of the markets in Singapore and eat at some really great restaurants. Now that our chicken's ready, we're going to season it with some salt and pepper and then just leave it aside. Spices are so important a part of Singaporean cuisine. There's so many fresh herbs and spices available everywhere. When I was at Violet Oon's house, she had lemongrass and turmeric both growing in her yard, which was just amazing. Yeah. We've got our onions here, and it's just a sliced onion. Now shallots are a smaller onion, and they're not as pungent as a red onion. They're more sweet like a Spanish onion, but they do give a really nice mild flavor to our dish. Red chilies. Now these are like a bird's eye chili. They're a little bit bigger and they're very spicy. So they're really going to heat up this dish. We're going to use some limes. There's something else that grows fresh in Singapore. They have a calamansi lime that they use usually. Now what I like to do with them first is I actually like to take and roll them. And that helps get all the juices out. We're ready to heat up some oil and get our items into it.
And so I've heard that eating is Singapore's unofficial national pastime.
Yeah. When you go down to the markets, they're just huge. They have live fish, snakes, everything, chickens hanging.
Wow.
And there's also a lot of areas where there's food vendors, kind of like what we have as food trucks. But there they all have letters on them, so they're graded A, B, C, or D. Now A means it's the cleanest, but D is always the tastiest. So if your stomach can handle it, you always want to eat at the lower letters.
Good tip.
That's where the good food is. So we're just going to put our onions in our wok, and you can see it's nice and hot with our oil. And then we're going to add our shallots, if you'd like to put them in. Lots of onions in this dish, but they're going to cook right down so that they're giving a really nice flavor. And then we're going to add our chilies. And if you want to cut those limes in half, we're going to juice both of them right into our dish. Yeah, so you're going to give it a good hard squeeze in there. We need about 4 tablespoons of citrus here, or lime juice.
And so would this be like a signature Singapore flavor?
You'll notice in a lot of the Singapore dishes, there's an acid like a lemon or lime juice, and a lot of spice with the chilies, or often you'll find the spice with galanga, which is a herb that they use. It's a root herb like ginger, very similar. Or else you'll see it with the lemongrass as well, so that you have that bright flavor in it, and the heat from lots of fresh chilies. So we can add the chicken in now, if you'd like to pour it around. So while I'm mixing this, you can make our sauce for me, Kit.
Okay.
We're going to take our cup of water, a tablespoon of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. One of the highlights for me when I was in Singapore was getting to see the Raffles Hotel. It's a beautiful heritage hotel, and that's actually where the Singapore Sling drink originated.
Oh.
It's a really nice fruity drink. They also have night markets. There the markets run day and night, so you actually can go out and get fresh produce on the street all night long.
Wow.
And it runs right into the morning hours.
And so I've heard that Singapore's actually really clean though. I mean, the market's like live animals. That doesn't sound clean to me.
It actually is extremely clean. When you're in Singapore, they have very strict rules about Pretty much everything. So if you even throw a gum wrapper on the ground, you can get arrested for it. So there's no dirt anywhere. The subways are pristine. The streets are clean. I didn't see a speck of garbage anywhere. So now what we can do is add in our liquid. And that's just going to kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan, which is taking up all those bits of flavor that are in there, and get it mixed around. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to lower our heat down a little bit, and we're going to put a lid over it and let it steam for a few minutes, just to get all of those flavors cooking together. So this looks great.
And it smells great too.
You can hear it simmered right down. Now this sauce that we've put on, we haven't added any type of starch to it. So you're just going to cook it until that sauce reduces down on its own and all those flavors come together. It looks delicious.
It does. Now, because Singapore dishes depend on the freshest ingredients, I traveled to one of Selkirk's many market gardens to see what was up.
This whole farm site in here that we have our gardens on, cattle used to be on here. It was an old corral. So the soil in here has been curing for 50 years like fine wine. We have different types of zucchinis here. This is something that the chefs really like, I think. We've got one here with a flower on it, and they'll use that for stuffing.
Cool.
Everything in this cold frame is edible, and including the flowers here. We have some nasturtium and violas here. We even have sold the leaves off of these because they're also edible. This is baby arugula.
And so this is stuff that we can get locally all year round, right?
Yes, you could get something like this because it's a cool crop. We have had one chef, he wanted these little cucumbers on here with the flower opening up.
So why do you think locally grown produce is so important?
It's because we need to establish our own food here, and the more that people are looking for it, the more that there'll be people who will be trying different ways of growing it here. And I think it's very important that we don't just look out to other countries for our food, but we have our own supply here, and why not? We can grow great food here.
And it just goes to show you don't have to go all the way to Singapore to find exotic. But it's back to the kitchen to whip up our second Singapore dish.
Chili crab is something that's really popular all over Singapore, and we're doing a little twist on that recipe by using some prawns instead. This is a really special wok to me because I brought it back from Singapore. I actually went to a restaurant wholesale store and picked up a whole bunch of items when I was there. And I took a couple pictures of the spot, and that's what got me in trouble because they actually kicked me out of the store because they didn't want me taking pictures of their product.
Oh, wow. I went to a wholesale store too when I was in France, actually. It was a lot bigger than anything I've seen here.
So I've got my shallots and my garlic that I'm adding in. And if you want to get the chilies, we'll put them in next. And we're just going to mash these guys up a little bit as we're cooking them. So while I'm doing this, Kit, you could make the sauce for me.
Okay.
So you're going to use about 5 tablespoons of oil, and you're just going to kind of do that by eye. That's good for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's perfect. And now you're going to mix in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And you're going to add to that all of our ketchup here. Okay. Which I know ketchup in a recipe. When I learned how to make this, I thought that was really interesting, that to have a traditional Singaporean dish that had with ketchup in it.
Ketchup.
And then we're going to add to that about 2 tablespoons of our soy sauce. And we're going to add in a cup of water and then whisk it all together. So while you whisk up that sauce, I'm going to add in my shrimp. For at home, if you want to make this dish a little bit quicker, the shrimp that's raw and deveined and cleaned is perfect for it. So we'll cook up our shrimp until it's all nice and pink, and then we'll add our sauce into it. So we're going to add a little bit more citrus to this dish as well. If you want to cut that lemon in half for me, you're going to squeeze or roll it there just to get all those juices coming out of it.
And so I imagine seafood is a big part of Singapore cuisine.
Definitely. You know, fish is so important in Singapore that they actually can't keep up with the population, to feed the population. So they have fish farms. We went on a boat tour. We actually found that the fish farms were really unique because they're out in the middle of the water. They're not on the sides or the shores. So now we're going to add our sauce in. Our shrimp is all pretty much cooked. And then we're going to let this come to a nice simmer. And a little bit of a different twist to this dish is you're going to actually put a broken egg into it and beat it up, and we'll add that in at the end.
Okay.
So another traditional Singapore dish is pad thai, and that's another place that you'll see the eggs scrambled in with the food. So now that it's boiling, we could add in our beaten egg.
Okay.
So you're going to kind of have a different texture to it with that egg in there. And now you're going to give a good squeeze of the lemon. So with this dish, we're going to have that sweet and sour and spicy flavor again. Now we're going to garnish this with some green onions. And we're ready to serve.
This tastes great. I was really expecting it to be a lot spicier than it actually is, but it's just spicy enough for me. I really like kind of how the sauce is smooth. The fresh chives on top really just add to it.
All of these flavors in these dishes are truly what Experience Singapore is like. Fresh flavors, that acid, and that bit of heat at the end. This brings back so many memories for me of being in Singapore.
Thanks so much, Chef, for sharing all of your amazing memories and these great recipes with me. And thank you for joining us on Our Global Kitchen. And I'm gonna keep eating.